It was supposed to be just another night in the sky, another routine UPS cargo run. Until something happened inside that aircraft that no pilot had ever imagined, something so fast, so violent, and so mysterious that investigators spent years trying to understand how an airplane with two highly trained pilots could lose all control in less than 90 seconds. And yet, after all those years of confusion, one pilot, working entirely on his own, finally discovered a hidden flaw buried deep within the aircraft's design, a flaw so shocking that it rewrites everything we thought we knew about the crash. This is the story of how the mystery was finally solved. The story begins on a cold night when the UPS crew arrived at the airport for a flight they believed would be routine. The ramp was alive with activity, forklifts moving rhythmically, cargo containers sliding into place, and the faint glow of airport lights reflecting off polished fuselages. The captain, a veteran with thousands of hours, and the first officer, sharp, focused, and well-respected, went through their usual checks. Nothing was unusual, no warnings, no concerns. The aircraft waiting for them, a loyal workhorse of the fleet, had flown earlier that day without issues. Maintenance logs showed nothing that would hint at danger. Even the loading crew didn't sense anything out of the ordinary as they sealed the cargo bay. But hidden deep among the containers was a threat no one recognized. As the engines powered up and the aircraft pushed back, everything felt normal. Clearance was smooth, taxi was smooth, the takeoff roll was perfect. The aircraft lifted off into the dark sky, engines humming as the city lights faded beneath them. At cruise altitude, the flight settled into silence. The two pilots monitored instruments, updated the flight management system, and exchanged brief words. But unknown to them, somewhere below their feet, something had begun. Something small, quiet, but deadly. A single package containing unstable lithium-ion components began heating, not exploding, not burning, just heating, slowly and silently. The first sign in the cockpit was so small that the captain almost ignored it. A microscopic yaw, a faint vibration, barely perceptible. The first officer noticed a slight fluctuation in a fuel reading, but it was within limits. Nothing pointed to danger, yet the cargo bay temperature continued rising. Then came the first advisory alert, soft, easy to miss, almost harmless. The first officer leaned forward. "Did you hear that?" The captain scanned the displays. An amber light glowed, steady, calm, deceptively innocent. It suggested a possible issue in the lower compartment. But the fire was growing, slowly. Then smoke detectors triggered, cargo smoke. The first officer said, calm, controlled, professional, but their voices tightened. The captain immediately declared an emergency and began diverting toward the nearest airport. They initiated descent, fire suppression activated, checklists followed, everything by the book, but this fire wasn't following any book. Materials inside the cargo bay fed themselves, producing oxygen internally. Flames intensified, temperatures skyrocketed. Smoke spread through unseen gaps, reaching the cockpit. Within minutes, visibility faded and bitterness filled their lungs despite oxygen masks. Stress increased. Alarms multiplied, yet the crew fought with remarkable calmness. They descended rapidly, trying to reach safety. But then, something catastrophic happened. Something that made no sense at the time. Multiple systems failed at once. Not gradually, instantly. Displays darkened, controls stiffened, the aircraft veered sharply. The captain countered, fighting desperately, but the aircraft barely responded. The first officer called out altitudes and speeds, but the instruments were becoming unreliable as fire damaged wiring beneath the floor. Flames reached a vulnerable area, one no one even knew was exposed. Cables melted, hydraulic pressure collapsed, controls no longer obeyed commands, the cockpit was filled with blinding smoke. The aircraft rolled unexpectedly, the captain shouting corrections, the first officer struggling to read anything through the haze. Their final recorded words remained professional, two pilots trying with all their strength to save their aircraft, but physics had already turned against them. The aircraft plummeted, struck the ground with devastating force, and erupted into flames. Investigators arrived quickly, but answers did not. For months, teams analyzed debris, systems, fire patterns, and recorder data. They concluded that a lithium battery fire was the most likely cause, but something didn't fit. The speed of failure was too extreme, control loss too sudden, systems too interconnected. They wrote the report, but even they knew the story wasn't complete. Years passed, families moved on. The aviation world marked it as tragic, but explained. Except one man, a retired UPS captain who couldn't shake the feeling that everyone had missed something. He had flown the same type of aircraft, knew its systems intimately, and understood its hidden vulnerabilities. So he began digging. What started as curiosity became obsession. He reviewed old manuals, blueprints, maintenance diagrams, fire, safety bulletins. He contacted engineers, mechanics, former aircrew. He recreated the aircraft's internal routing pathways, wiring, hydraulics, ducting. And then he found it, a single hidden vulnerability in a routing panel beneath the cockpit floor, a panel thought to be sealed, a panel believed to be protected, but in extreme heat, thermal expansion created a gap, small but deadly. Through that gap, fire could reach the aircraft's central control cables. Not one cable, not two, all of them, and it could do it in seconds. Suddenly, the mystery made sense, the instantaneous loss of control. The simultaneous system failures, the strange data spikes. Everything matched the retired pilot's discovery. He took his findings to safety analysts. Skeptical at first, they tested it. Simulations confirmed it. In certain fire conditions, the aircraft could lose all three axes of control at once. It was a design flaw, hidden, rare, but real, and it meant the UPS crew never had a chance. Their actions were correct. Their procedures flawless, their bravery unquestionable. The real culprit was a vulnerability no one knew existed. Safety boards recommended modifications. Reinforcements were installed. Routing pathways redesigned. Fire containment standards updated, all because one pilot refused to stop looking for the truth. Today, the crash is no longer seen as a case of a fire simply overwhelming a crew. It is understood for what it truly was, a combination of an intense cargo fire and a hidden structural weakness that allowed the flames to cripple the aircraft's systems in seconds. And because of that discovery, countless flights today are safer. Countless crews are protected, and the legacy of the lost pilots is rewritten, not as victims of error, but as heroes fighting an impossible battle. The mystery that haunted aviation for years has finally been solved. And it changes everything.